Imagine a single drop of rain, right, acting like a microscopic bomb.
Oh, wow.
Like it hits a leaf, it shatters, and in doing so, it disperses, you know, thousands of invisible spores
Hmm.
that are capable of basically wiping out an entire harvest in just a
Mm,
matter of days.
right.
Welcome to the deep dive.
It is, it's a stark image for sure, but honestly, that's literally the reality of what we're looking at today. It's completely invisible to the naked eye until, well, until it's just way too late.
Exactly. I mean, for you listening right now, when you walk into the produce section of a grocery store and you pick up a vegetable, it is just so easy to take it for granted.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
look at an Ampalaya, right, a bitter gourd with its bright green, bumpy skin, and you probably just think about, I don't know, what you're going to cook for dinner.
You're not thinking about the farm.
Right. You don't see the
Farm.
literal war that had to be waged just to get it onto that shelf. So today, we're taking you to the front lines of that microscopic battlefield.
Yeah, we've got our hands on this really fascinating source material.
Yes, we do. It's a comprehensive, highly structured, proposed handbook outline, and it's titled Ampalaya Disease Management, a comprehensive guide for commercial and small-scale production under rain-fed and irrigated systems.
It's quite a mouthful.
It is a mouthful, but let me tell you, reading through this thing, it completely rewrites what I thought farming actually entailed.
What's really fascinating here is just the sheer scope, and the pragmatism of this document. It's basically a complete A to Z guide designed for everyone.
Right, from big farms to small ones.
Exactly, from large commercial operations all the way down to small-scale local farmers. It takes this incredibly complex plant pathology.
The actual science of it,
Yeah, the deep science of how plants get sick, and it translates it into highly practical, on-the-ground field action.
which they desperately need.
Right. I mean, it covers everything from managing a farm that relies entirely on, unpredictable rainfall to highly controlled, artificially irrigated systems. It is, for all intents and purposes, like a military field manual for growing bitter gourd.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because, before you can fight an enemy, you have to know exactly what it is.
Right. You need to identify the threat.
Exactly. And reading through the sections on understanding plant diseases, it immediately made me wonder, like, is a plant disease basically just a plant catching a cold?
Catching a cold.
Yeah. Like, it gets the sniffles, it droops a little bit, and then if it just gets some rest, it bounces back.
Yeah, it's a great analogy to start with. But the stakes here are just so much higher.
Really? How so?
Well, when a human gets a cold, we have a complex adaptive immune system, right? When a plant gets a quote-unquote cold, it doesn't just sneeze.
Right.
An entire field, an entire farmer's livelihood can literally be wiped out in a week.
Oh, wow. A week.
Yeah. The handbook breaks down the specific disease-causing organisms, and they are incredibly diverse. You aren't just fighting one thing.
It's an army.
Pretty much. You're dealing with pathogenic fungi, bacteria, viruses, oomycetes, and nematodes.
Okay, let's define some of those, because that's a lot of science words. Nematodes, those are essentially microscopic worms.
Exactly. They live down in the soil and they physically attack the roots.
Okay, and oomycetes.
Those are commonly known as water molds.
Water molds, got it.
Yeah, they thrive in damp conditions and they just devastate the plant tissues. But to really grasp how these diseases actually function out in the field, we have to look at the most crucial concept introduced in the text, which is the disease triangle.
The disease triangle.
Yes, this is like the absolute foundational rule of plant pathology. For a disease to actually happen in the real world, three things have to exist at the exact same time.
Okay, what are they?
First, you need a susceptible host, meaning a vulnerable Ampalaya plant. Second, you need a virulent pathogen. That's the specific organism causing the disease, like a fungus spore.
Okay, host and pathogen. What's the third?
And third, you need a favorable environment,
Uh,
like the perfect temperature or, a specific level of humidity.
Wait, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. So if I have a perfectly healthy plant,
Right.
and the soil around it is just absolutely swarming with a dangerous fungal pathogen.
Right. Spores are everywhere.
Yeah. But the weather that week is incredibly hot and dry, and that specific fungus, it needs cool, wet conditions to survive. The plant lives.
The plant lives.
Seriously.
Yes, you have a host, you have a pathogen, but you do not have a favorable environment. The triangle is broken.
That is wild.
Yeah, if you break even one side of that triangle, the disease simply cannot take hold.
That makes total sense. Break the triangle, stop the disease.
Yeah.
But looking at how these diseases physically spread from plant to plant, The list in this handbook is terrifying.
It's a long list.
It really is. It lists wind, rain, irrigation water, soil, seeds, tools, and insects.
Mm-hmm.
I have to push back on one of these because it really stood out to me.
Which one?
Humans and animals. Wait, humans.
Oh, yes.
We can spread plant diseases just by walking through a field.
We absolutely can. In fact, we are probably one of the most efficient vectors out there.
Are you serious? Just by walking?
Think about it mechanically. If you walk through a section of a farm that has a really severe fungal infection, those microscopic spores, they stick to the mud on the bottom of your boots.
Oh, gross.
They
Oil.
cling to the fabric of your pants, or they even just stick to the oils on your bare hands.
Oh, wow.
Then, you walk across the property into a perfectly healthy section of the field. You brush your leg against a wet leaf, or maybe you touch a vine just to inspect it, and you have just physically deposited the pathogen right onto a susceptible host.
You literally handed the disease to the plant.
Exactly. It highlights the extreme vulnerability of the whole farm ecosystem. It's not some closed, sterile laboratory environment. Literally everything touching the plant is a potential threat.
That is wild. You are literally tracking the enemy on your shoes.
Ah.
And the names of these enemies,
They're quite descriptive.
they sound incredibly dramatic. Like
Right.
the text lists the common diseases, and we are talking about powdery mildew, gummy stem blight, fusarium wilt, damping off.
Yeah.
Let's talk about damping off, because honestly, that sounds like a very polite, British way of saying the plant just gave up and died.
Well, it essentially is, and it's devastating because damping off usually strikes right at the seedling stage.
Like right when you plant it.
Yeah, right when the farmer has just started.
Yeah.
A fungus in the soil attacks the tiny stem right at the soil line.
Oh, that's brutal.
It really is. The stem just gets weak, it turns all mushy and water-soaked, and the tiny plant just completely collapses in on itself.
Just melts right into the dirt.
Pretty much.
Man. What about fusarium wilt? That sounds aggressive.
Oh, fusarium wilt is insidious. It essentially attacks the internal plumbing of the plant.
The plumbing.
Yeah, the fungus gets into the xylem. Those are the microscopic tubes that carry water from the roots all the way up to the leaves.
Right, like the veins.
Exactly. It physically clogs those tubes and it releases toxins.
So it suffocates the plant's water supply.
Exactly. So a farmer could be looking at soil that is perfectly wet,
Oh, wow.
but the vine itself is suddenly collapsing and wilting because not a single drop of that water can actually make it up the stem.
That is so frustrating.
And meanwhile, gummy stem blight does exactly what it sounds like.
Hmm.
It causes the stem to split open and literally ooze this sticky, gummy substance as the tissue just rots away.
Ugh, okay. So if everything from the wind to a tiny insect to literally a farmer's boots can spread a disease that melts a seedling or completely clogs a plant's internal plumbing,
Yeah.
how on earth do farmers figure out what is actually attacking their plants?
Yeah.
I mean, these pathogens are invisible until the physical damage is already done, right?
Right, and that is the core of field forensics, which the handbook dives really deeply into. It introduces this concept of regular field scouting.
Field scouting.
Yeah, a farmer cannot just, plant a seed, add some water, and walk away. They have to act like active forensic investigators.
Looking for clues.
Yes. They are actively observing specific visual symptoms on every single part of the plant. I mean, the leaves, the stems, the vines, the roots, the flowers, and the fruits. They have to learn to read the plant's distress signals.
But, okay, if I am walking through a field and I see a yellow or a wilted leaf, my very first thought is, oh, it needs water.
Right.
Or maybe, I don't know, a bug ate it. How do they know it's a microscopic fungus and not just a thirsty plant? Because, I mean, to an untrained eye, a dying leaf is just a dying leaf.
That is exactly the challenge the text addresses. It specifically teaches farmers the critical and honestly often subtle visual differences between a biological disease, physical pest damage, and a simple nutrient deficiency in the cell.
Okay, give me an example. How do you tell the difference?
Okay, let's look at a leaf. If an Ampalaya leaf is turning pale yellow uniformly across the whole surface, starting from the bottom of the plant, it might just be a nitrogen deficiency.
The plant is just hungry.
Exactly. Now, if the leaf has ragged, uneven holes ripped out at the edges, a caterpillar or a beetle probably chewed on it.
Right, physical damage from a bug.
But if that leaf has a distinct yellow halo surrounding a dark, dead, necrotic spot right in the center.
A yellow halo.
Yeah, that is highly likely to be a fungal infection.
Why the halo, though? What causes that?
Because as the fungus grows and eats the tissue in the center, it secretes these toxins that spread outward, poisoning and yellowing the healthy green tissue just ahead of it.
Oh, wow. It's like an expanding blast radius.
That is a perfect way to describe it. The handbook even includes a localized subtitle in one of the sections that translates to correct identification before taking action, which I think just perfectly captures the absolute necessity of this detective work.
Correct identification before taking action. I like that. You can't just guess.
You really can't. You cannot treat a fungal infection by dumping fertilizer on it.
Obviously not.
And you certainly cannot fix a lack of nitrogen by spraying an incredibly expensive chemical fungicide. If you misdiagnose the problem based on just a quick glance, you waste your money, you potentially harm the surrounding environment with unnecessary chemicals, and at the end of the day, you still lose the entire crop.
Man.
Mm.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because once you have played detective,
Right.
and you know exactly which microscopic enemy you are facing,
You see the halo.
right, you see the yellow halo, you know it's the fungus, you have to actually fight back.
Yes.
And the handbook outlines this entire arsenal under the banner of Integrated Disease Management, or IDM.
Integrated disease management. It is all about layering your defenses. It is never just one single solution.
Right. And the section on biological disease management caught my eye immediately.
Oh, it's fascinating stuff.
It really is. It talks about using beneficial microorganisms like trichoderma and bacillus. When I read this, I immediately wondered, is this basically like giving the farm a daily probiotic?
A probiotic.
Yeah, like you eating yogurt for your gut health, but applied to the dirt.
I absolutely love that analogy. Yes, it is very much like a probiotic for the soil and the plant's root system. This is where the science gets truly elegant.
How so?
Well, instead of the old school mentality of just trying to chemically scorch the earth and, kill everything in the dirt,
Which sounds terrible.
it is. Instead of that, you are intentionally introducing natural, beneficial microbes to fight the bad pathogens for you.
Tell me about trichoderma. How does a quote-unquote good fungus fight a bad fungus? Like, are they physically fighting down there?
They absolutely are.
Really?
Yeah. Trichoderma is an incredibly aggressive, fast-growing, beneficial fungus. When you introduce it to the soil, it rapidly colonizes the root zone.
Okay.
First, it just outcompetes the harmful fungi. I mean, it simply eats all the available nutrients and takes up all the physical space, so the bad spores literally can't establish themselves.
Oh, so it just starves them out.
It starves them out, but it goes further than that.
Wait, it gets crazier.
It does. Trichoderma can actually detect the chemical signals of pathogenic fungi.
No way.
Yes. It will actively grow toward the bad fungus, physically coil its microscopic threads around it, secrete enzymes that dissolve the pathogen cell walls, and literally consume it.
That is biological warfare. That is incredible.
It's amazing.
But let me play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because the manual has all these warnings about biological control. You are dealing with living organisms, which means they're fragile.
Very fragile.
Right. If you leave a biological product baking in the hot sun, the good microbes die. Their compatibility with other farm chemicals really matters. The timing has to be absolutely perfect.
It's a lot to manage.
Exactly. So honestly, wouldn't it just be easier and faster to grab a chemical fungicide, spray it on everything the moment you see a wilted leaf, and just guarantee the crop survives?
It is an incredibly tempting thought, and for decades, that actually was the standard practice.
Right. Just spray it all.
But the handbook firmly counters that approach. Chemical control is strictly framed as a last resort, something that is only justified when absolutely necessary. You just cannot spray blindly.
Why not, though?
Yeah.
I mean, if the chemical kills the fungus and saves the bitter gourd, what's the actual problem?
Because of the severe long-term consequences, the text details incredibly strict rules for chemical intervention. First and foremost, there's the concept of mode of action, or MOA, rotation.
Mode of action, meaning like how the chemical actually does the killing.
Precisely. Let's say you buy a fungicide that kills the fungus by destroying its cell wall, right?
Okay.
If you spray that exact same chemical over and over again month after month, you are naturally selecting for the strongest, most mutated spores.
Oh, I see where this is going.
Yeah, the 99% that die are gone, but the 1% that randomly mutated to resist that specific chemical, they will survive and they'll multiply.
Wow.
Suddenly, you have a field full of superfungus, and your chemical weapon is entirely useless.
So by overspraying, you are actively accelerating the evolution of the disease.
Yeah.
You're literally making the enemy stronger.
You are. And to prevent this, a farmer has to really understand the chemistry. They have to rotate the chemical families.
Rotate them.
Yeah, like spray a cell wall destroyer this week, but next time use a chemical that disrupts the fungus's respiration instead. You have to keep the pathogens guessing to prevent that resistance.
That is brilliant, but man, that sounds exhausting to track.
Oh, it is. The handbook also mandates avoiding unnecessary pesticide mixtures, which, farmers sometimes do just to save time, but it can actually cause toxic chemical reactions that burn the plant itself.
Oh, yikes.
And it heavily emphasizes pre-harvest intervals.
What's that?
That is the strict, legally required number of days between the very last chemical spray and the day the Ampalaya is actually picked.
Ah, okay.
This ensures there is absolutely no dangerous residue left on the food you eventually buy at the grocery store.
That makes me feel a lot better.
Right. Plus, it strictly requires the use of personal protective equipment, or PPE, for the farmers themselves, ensuring environmental protection and, obviously, human safety.
Okay, so chemical spraying is definitely not the easy way out at all. It's basically the nuclear option that requires a massive amount of regulation, chemistry knowledge, and just extreme care.
Definitely.
But looking at the next section, it seems to me that all these biological probiotics and carefully rotated chemical weapons are completely useless if the environment itself is working against the plant.
Absolutely. If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are talking about water.
The third side of the triangle.
Exactly. When we synthesize the various environmental sections of this guide, we see the precarious double-edged sword of water management. We all know water is life, but in the realm of plant pathology, water is also the primary vector for death.
Because, as you mentioned with the disease triangle, fungi and bacteria, they just absolutely love moisture.
They do. Over-irrigation, or even just poorly timed rain, fuels disease development by creating what they call prolonged leaf wetness.
Prolonged leaf wetness.
Yeah. If a leaf stays wet for too many hours, a fungal spore sitting on that leaf finally has the perfect humid environment it needs to germinate and physically penetrate the plant tissue.
So it's basically giving the spore a swimming pool to hatch in.
Basically, yeah. But on the flip side, under-irrigation causes severe plant stress. And a stress-thirsty plant has a weakened immune system, making it highly susceptible to the very diseases it might normally fight off if it were healthy.
You are walking a razor-thin tightrope here.
Very thin.
And the handbook outlines two completely different realities for farmers managing this tightrope. You have rain-fed systems and irrigated systems.
Right.
In rain-fed system, you are entirely relying on the sky. The manual talks about having to manage excess moisture, frantically digging trenches to prevent soil erosion, and actively scouting for diseases right after severe storms.
It's incredibly reactive.
Yeah, you are essentially at the mercy of the weather, just trying to mitigate the damage of a heavy downpour.
Whereas irrigated systems are all about precision control. You decide exactly when the plant drinks. But even that control comes with massive risks.
Really? Like what?
The choice of the physical irrigation method completely changes your disease risk profile.
Right. The text compares drip, furrow, and sprinkler irrigation. So, based on what we just discussed about leaf wetness, I would assume a sprinkler is the worst possible choice.
You hit the nail right on the head.
I knew it.
Think about a sprinkler. It essentially mimics a rainstorm. It's indiscriminately spraying water everywhere, thoroughly soaking all the leaves and all the vines.
Handing them that perfect humid environment.
Exactly. You are practically handing the fungal spores the prolonged wetness they need to germinate. Drip irrigation, however, is an absolute game changer for disease management.
How does that work?
It delivers water, drop by drop, right through a tube, directly into the soil at the root zone.
So the roots get their drink, but the foliage above ground stays bone dry.
Exactly. Water management isn't just about quenching the plant's thirst. It is a primary active method of disease prevention.
I am honestly marveling at the sheer amount of information a farmer has to juggle here. I mean, they are tracking the weather, they're managing biological warfare in the dirt, rotating complex chemical modes of action, calculating pre-harvest intervals, and monitoring soil moisture.
It's a lot.
How does any single human being keep track of all this without just completely losing their mind?
Well, that is really where the practical genius of this manual shines. It doesn't just throw science at you and wish you luck. It provides a comprehensive disease management decision guide.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it distills all the field forensics and environmental management into a strict, highly organized 10-step protocol.
Okay, walk me through this, but let's make it real. Don't just give me a list of 10 things. Let's say I'm a farmer.
Okay, farmer.
It's Tuesday morning. I'm walking my rows of Ampalaya. What is my very first move?
Okay, Tuesday morning. First, you are actively observing,
Just looking.
but you aren't just glancing as you walk by. You are inspecting the leaves. You're physically lifting them up to look at the undersides. Step 2, you spot a symptom.
Uh-oh.
Let's say you see that yellow halo we talked about earlier. You identify it.
Okay, I see the yellow halo, so I know it's a problem. Do I go grab the fungicide now?
Absolutely not. Steps 3, 4, and 5 kick in.
Right.
You stop and you check the soil and the weather conditions. Has it been raining lately? Is the soil poorly drained? Based on all that data, you hypothesize the cause and you officially confirm the disease. So you think, okay, it's been really wet, it's a yellow halo, this is likely gummy stem blight.
Okay, so I know what it is. Now do I spray?
Still no.
Come on.
Step 6 is applying preventative or cultural measures. Maybe you physically prune away the diseased leaves and burn them so the spores can't spread.
Oh, I physically remove it.
Or maybe you dig a quick trench to drain the standing water that's actively fueling the fungus. Then, step 7, you explore biological control. Can you apply trichoderma to the soil to fight it naturally?
Okay, I try that, but what if it's spreading way too fast? The pruning and the probiotics, they just aren't working.
Okay, that brings you to step 8, chemical control. Used only as a last resort, making absolutely sure to rotate your mode of action.
Right, to avoid the superfungus.
Exactly. Then step 9, you monitor the results over the next few days to see if the spread actually stops. And finally, step 10, you record exactly what happened, what the weather was, what chemical you used, everything.
Record what happened. You know, that leads perfectly into the final sections of the document, the actual tools provided, because this really shatters the stereotype of quote-unquote simple farming.
Totally.
We're talking about rigorous, tedious data collection. The handbook provides actual templates, weekly disease scouting sheets, disease severity rating sheets, pesticide application records. This is scientific monitoring at its core.
It really is.
A farmer is literally mapping disease hotspots on a grid and tracking input costs down to the cent.
It is applied science in the truest sense of the word. You know, you are not just throwing seeds in the dirt and hoping for the best. You are running a complex, hyper-vigilant biological production facility.
So what does this all mean? For you, listening right now, the next time you see an Ampalaya, a bitter gourd, just sitting peacefully under the grocery store lights.
Under the sprinklers in the produce aisle.
Yeah, exactly. Recognize that its journey from a tiny seedling to the harvest basket is a literal gauntlet of biological warfare. It is a plant that somehow survived invisible fungal spores, microscopic worms that eat roots, and totally unpredictable weather, all mitigated only by a meticulous human intervention, strict farm hygiene, and absolute environmental control.
And, you know, what makes this proposed handbook so vital is the intense focus on actual knowledge application.
Right.
It outlines these farmer field school activities. This isn't just academic theory sitting in a binder on some university shelf collecting dust.
No, it's meant to be used.
It provides hands-on, community-based activities for disease scouting, diagnosis, and decision-making. It ensures these incredibly complex microscopic systems are actually understood and successfully implemented by the actual people with their boots in the mud.
It is an incredible manual for survival. But reading through all these highly calibrated systems leaves me with one final, lingering question.
What's that?
Well, this entire handbook relies heavily on strictly timed disease prevention calendars and specific historical weather patterns to manage the risks of rain-fed versus irrigated farms, right?
Right.
Like, you know, when the rainy season usually starts, so you can prepare. But as global climate change accelerates, making historical rainfall and storm patterns increasingly unpredictable and violent, honestly.
Yeah, it throws a whole calendar off.
Exactly. How will these farmers have to adapt these carefully calibrated tools to survive a future where the weather no longer plays by the rules?
It's a huge unknown.
It is. Just something to think about the next time you're standing in the produce aisle.